Hello and welcome to PlayStation Plus free games Moto GP13 on the PS Vita. It's so boring. It's so unbelievably boring and uninteresting and dull as hell. It's super dull. It's just super dull. So you've got let's just show you what you can do. You can do instant race, which will just put you in a random race, single player, Grand Prix, whatever we call it, where you pick your own race and you do a single race. Championship is where you do like a championship of how many races, blah blah blah, and whoever gets the most points at the end wins. You got career, where you just go through a career, time attack, multiplayer, and my GP, where you can customize your character, blah blah blah. So yeah, and that's it. So not much really. I mean, there's like the only interesting ones, the only things you really want to do is career and multiplayer and maybe time attack really. So let's show you let's go straight into the racing, the career. Show you that off. So welcome to the Moto van. This is where you are before the start of a race, just like every other racing game ever. You got the standings, you got your laptop where you can read your emails, just like every other racing game ever. You know, emails, blah blah blah. So you start the race. Got newspapers, whoop-de-doo, ready to go. Locker, where you can change your appearance. Change your portrait. Change what nation you're from. Change your portrait. Blah blah blah. Change your helmet. And I don't know if you noticed, but the graphics, at least even just from here, are horrendous. Horrendous. Like, it looks like the PSP version of MotoGP. Like, it looks really ugly. Like, really ugly. Insanely ugly. Like, it's just so dull and grey and so low res and so low textures. So low res textures, it's really bad. What's kind of cool is you can change your riding style, which I quite like. I go with old school. Change your crew, you know. I'm pretty sure, I'm guessing these are the developers of the game, the portraits. Just guessing. Okay, let's just start a race. You see, it takes a little bit to get into the game. It's got like, oh lord, look at this live action nonsense of where you're actually going. Oh, amazing. This game also has the rewind function that every game ever is having now, which, I don't know. I think I'd rather it wasn't there, to be honest. Look how bland it is. It's insanely ugly as balls. It's just so great. So obviously you got your interior thing. You can do technical meeting, session info. But let's just start. Let's just go into the race. Here we are in the standings. Here we are. here we go, and here we go. So the main problem with the game is that the racing is not fun. It's so dull, so like it's not fun. Like the main problem with it is that like I'm guessing it's supposed to be realistic, but yeah, whatever. The bikes are so heavy, it feels like you're turning a tank, and it's not fun at all. And you'd think like getting like your knee down in the corner would be really fun, but it doesn't. It's so uninteresting and boring. It doesn't feel fast. You know, it's so horrible to control. It's not fun. It's really not fun. The only cool thing is what will make it more interesting is you can change the camera to inside the helmet, which makes it a bit more interesting, but might make you feel sick after a while. And this is the only thing that makes it a bit more interesting. But even this would get boring after a while, I reckon, once the it's worn off. And this is it. You just do racing forever, and that's it. And people say graphics don't matter, and they don't, but in a racing game they really help. You know, racing games, you know, they don't need nice graphics, but it really helps to see nice graphics in a racing game, you know. And it's not like there's barely anything on screen. It's like, why are the graphics so bad? It's like the frame rate dips sometimes, which is just crazy to me. When you're in like when you've got loads of bikes on screen, like so like the first couple of corners, the frame rate dips, and I don't understand how it can dip when the game looks this bad. And it takes a while to finish a race. I mean, at the moment we're only on 3 lap races, but the laps are still 2 minutes long. Like more than that, 2 minutes and a half, depending on what track you're on, but most of the time 2 minutes. And then later on they'll get longer. Like I just, oh no, it's boring. Super boring. You bored yet? Because I am. Whoop-de-doo! Wee! Yay! Now, it doesn't help that either that all the bikes look exactly the same. You know what I mean? There obviously are different leagues of bikes, but they all look the same. I mean, couldn't they have done something really? You know, like Formula 1 2013 had the classic racing. Like, why couldn't they done something like that? Why couldn't they have like you've had like a billion you've had a billion games in like race or like the Moto GP series. You could do something, spice it up a bit. You could have some like really awesome type of bikes, special event bikes. You know what I mean? Like, no, nothing. Could have chopper racing. How cool would that be? You know, you're riding around on these tracks on a chopper. You need something. You can't just have this again. You know, and it. Especially the PS Vita version, it looks like the last 5. It looks like the 2007. It looks worse than it looks like the PS2 version of MotoGP that came out. I don't know how many years ago. You know what I mean? And it still plays like it. So yeah. Still on the second lap. We're just about to go on the third lap. You can do wheelies, but whoop-de-doo. And what's crazy, obviously we got it for free with PlayStation Plus, but they were charging £30 for this. Are you taking the piss? You cannot, like, you charge like £10 for this max. Like, insane how they charge £30 for this. ridiculous. Like it is so low production values as well, and there's nothing. There's no voice acting from there's no voice acting from like people like over the headphones saying like, oh, you're doing good, or it's time to step up your game. Nothing, you know, nothing like that. Nothing. There's no destruction on the bikes or anything like that. It looks so ugly. There's no like lighting. The lighting is so ugly. It's ridiculous. I mean, even the grass, which is green, looks grey. It looks so drab and grey. It looks like the grass is literally got. If the grass had a face, it would be an upside down face. It wouldn't be smiling. It'd be really miserable. It just looks grey. Yay! 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 There is commentating once you finished, obviously. Yay!
This has been an excellent day for him.
Yay!
It also nets him 25 all-important points for the championship.
Yay! How do these games sell, and how do they keep making more of them? That's what I want to know. Okay, so I just showed you a race there. So we're gonna show you some multiplayer now, if anyone's playing it. I tried it out quickly before this video, and there was 3 people playing it, and I started playing, and it turns out the guy who hosted it made it so it's a 10-lap race. So I was like, no way am I doing a 10-lap race of this. It's just ridiculous. So it's like, if the racing was fun, that would make the game like brilliant, but it's not. It's like, in a racing game, all you really need to do is make the racing fun, and if you don't do that, it's not, your whole game basically shatters around itself. Let's go quick match. Let's show real live action stuff, which is more exciting than playing the fucking game. It's like, I'd rather watch it, which is never a good thing. It's like, where's that in the game? Look how low he is. Like, there's nothing like that in the game. Nothing like awesome like that in the game. Look how awesome that looks. Why can't it look like that awesome in the game? Apparently, it can't connect. Great. So remember, this is free on PlayStation Plus, and there's still like no one playing it. And a multiplayer, a good fun multiplayer, can save a racing game, but if no one's playing it, then, you know, no. It's like Grid 2 was insanely average, but the multiplayer was still quite fun. But like any racing game is kind of fun online. I can't connect? Great. Thanks, game. Come on. I am connected, right? Let's check. I'm connected. So this game's Pope. Doesn't connect. Great. Well, that's it really then. If we can't get the multiplayer, I'll be right back. And there'll be a cut. Okay, so I managed to get into a game. And thankfully there are people playing this, so that's nice. I don't know what's going on, it's just waiting to start. But the problem is just every racing game now, like every realistic racing game, is insanely boring. Invoked weather conditions, that's kind of cool. Rain? What about snow? Why couldn't we put snow in it? Clear. But every racing game now is like Gran Turismo 6. It was so boring. It's so lost its way. It's Gran Turismo 5 was boring. Gran Turismo 6 was boring. I mean, the Forza 5 is boring, but the only thing that actually makes you interested in people, the only thing that is interesting about Forza 5 is that it's on next gen, and that's it. That's it. Every other racing, the only racing games that are interesting now are arcade racing games, because they need to. Simulation racing games need to go away for a bit and then come back, because they're just so played out and boring. There's nothing new. But what can you do? There is nothing to do new. Or you need to go super hardcore. You know what I mean? You know, because this isn't realistic. You know what I mean? They need to make it super hardcore, I think, if they're going to do anything. Here we are. So this is multiplayer. And it's basically, look how ugly the game is. Oh my god. It's hard to, I know a lot of these tracks, but it's hard to even tell what they are because of the graphics. Great, already miles behind. And I believe you can only have 8 people in multiplayer, which is kind of poop. You know, nice to have 16 like there is in the. I think you can even have up to 30 players in the campaign. I feel like I know this racetrack, but I'm not sure. It's hard to tell because the graphics are so bad. Say there was only like bumper cam. Say for instance, if there was only bumper cam in this game, I would think I'm driving a tank because of how. Oh god, because of how, you know, heavy it is to turn them. And the animations for coming off your bike are really bad as well. It's the same every time as well. Uh-oh. Oh, great. And as soon as you touch an opponent, you're off. You're off. Like, that should be fun, but because of the fact that like I said, the turning is so heavy, it isn't. It should be quick, it should be left and right round the corner, and that would be fun. But no. And like I said, like, there's no, like I said, like, obviously there are different types of bikes, but they all look the same. They all look the same, and so like there's no variation in what you're riding. That's one of the disadvantages of a GP game, I guess. But like I said, they could put loads of different bikes in, like have a bit of fun. Why not? If they're not going to go super hardcore, at least have some, you know, cool elements in. I'm turning a tank, I swear. It's annoying, right? Because the PS Vita has so much power behind it, and they did nothing with it. They couldn't be asked. Great. Going through. Ba-ba-da-ba. No penalty for cutting corners, which is nice. And there you go, that's the multiplayer. It's still boring because of the fact that you can only have 8 players now in multiplayer. There's no excitement of, you know, being neck and neck with an opponent because they're all spread out, and it's super boring, and it might as well be playing a single player. So that is Moto GP13. It's insanely boring. I wouldn't play it. And it obviously, like every racing game, it's going to be a grind to go through the campaign, and don't do it. It's so boring. It's so boring, and the graphics are so dull and ugly. It's so not nice to look at all. So that was Moto GP13. Disappointing. I thought I was actually going to like it, but no, it's really quite boring.